Organizational planning during crisis. We have what you need right here on The Leadership Voice. Welcome to The Leadership Voice. I'm your host, Jay Barbuto. Today features organizational planning during crisis. And joining us today will be Don Reese, CEO of Wooden Floor. So please welcome Don Reese.
Hi, Jay. It's great to be with you.
Don, it's great to have you here today. Don, could you tell us a little bit about the Wooden Floor?
Sure. The Wooden Floor is a creative youth development organization. We annually provide 475 young people from low-income communities with the opportunity to have dance education with academics, college and career readiness, and social services. We also serve another 3,000 students in the schools in Santa Ana, Orange, and Tustin each year. So since 1983, we've served over 95,000 young people in Orange County and beyond now through our replicated model. We also, this year, will be our 16th year in a row that 100% of our students have graduated on time and immediately enrolled in higher education. We're super proud of that.
It sounds like you make great impact and have a great footprint all over Orange County and Southern California. Could you tell us a little bit about the role of planning of a CEO?
Sure. So one of the things that you often read in articles that planning is one of those things that really are kind of backburnered sometimes, but as the role of a CEO, I think it's imperative that you block out time in your schedule. I probably spend 75% of my time in planning, both short-term and long-term. I think on the short-term side, it's the way we look at design thinking around our programs that we implement. That's around, really having empathy for those we serve, really looking at designing and our operating plans. We really test and evaluate what we do. And then really, it's really focusing on, constant piloting of new ideas. And I think for the Wooden Floor, we don't just apply that to our program side, we actually apply it to all parts of the organization for strategy, marketing, and fundraising. And then I think on the longer term side, I also spend my time in long-term strategy. And that's really around our strategic vision. We currently have one that goes from 2010 to 2020. I've already teed up the next one with our board of directors. We did that last year, thank goodness. It was very fortuitous. We also, with our next strategic vision, is cast for 2131, because we make a 10-year commitment to our students at the Wooden Floor. They're with us from third grade all the way through high school. And so for us, we take a long vision about how we look at our students and what they accomplish with the organization. And so for us, it's a combination of short-term planning and long-term planning together.
So the role of planning, could you talk about how planning changes during crisis or during these difficult times that we're in?
So I think there's a couple of things to that answer. One is that, I think all leaders and CEOs especially should have business continuity plans in place, looking at how they would handle if something was a natural disaster or something. I think in this crisis we're currently under with COVID, it just really was a game changer in how we looked at, we had best efforts, best plans in place from budgeting and contingencies and reserves and all of that. But when the whole world stops, immediately it does put a lot of pressure on us to, pivot and adapt to that. I think the uncertainty of when we can return back to our reality, like I was saying, not an early new normal, but when do we get back to our everyday program planning, working with our students, working with our community? We're planning in a vacuum because we don't know when we're going to be able to return. And so that creates almost like when you look at an ROI, how much planning can you really do? So we're trying to do kind of a three-prong approach, almost like a vector where it can take different directions based upon what new information we gather. Again, it ties to design thinking that we really try to be really adaptable, and we don't create hard deadlines right now in this first 60 to 90 days of the challenge.
So do situations like these that we're in, do these create sometimes opportunities that might have been otherwise unforeseen?
Yes, I think with opportunities, one of the things I've been over the last 50 days, when the COVID crisis started, at least affecting our organization, One of the things we've really looked at is how you balance the tragedies that are still happening in our community with the ability to look forward and hopeful and look at where those opportunities really take place. And so, what I've been trying to do is really reflect as a leader to make sure that I'm really attuned to those. I have a couple that really come to mind. When we transitioned from being a place based organization where 475 students arrive at our 2 locations each day, also, now we're a virtual organization. We had to pivot, create a work remote plan, get all of our staff launched. But, we're a dance organization. So to dance remotely was an ultimate challenge. But what I did was, as an opportunity, I reached out to Edwards Life Sciences. I have a friend that works there in strategy, and I asked him, would he hop on a phone to really think through this design, kind of reverse engineering on this of how we could make that happen. What that did is it provided me with an incredible opportunity to talk to Christian, and then he referred me to someone at UCI that's working in virtual management. And we sat down and talked about what are our goals around virtual learning, and which was a complete opportunity for us to talk to someone. And we came out of that, which are the cornerstones for our virtual curriculum, which is around connectivity, techno literacy, creativity, and also health and wellness. So it's not about technique. It's really about connecting on a deeper level with our students. And I think this opportunity created us to reach out and partner and ask for advice from new people that maybe we wouldn't have done. And then I think as an organization, we've also been able to be a light in the midst of this challenge to other nonprofits. The way the Wooden Floor budgets and plans for contingencies, we have the same amount of challenges other nonprofits do, but we're able to have this long view of the work. And so we formed an OC Nonprofit CEO Forum to bring business executives of nonprofit CEOs together to really talk about the challenges facing nonprofits. Nonprofits are businesses, if anyone's not sure. We have all the same challenges all businesses do, especially right now. We're all in the same playing field right now. And what's really incredible out of this, talking to the leaders, that they're really staying optimistic. They're looking at ways they can maximize their missions. Some are adding new services, some are staying the course, like the Wooden Floor, of the way that we deliver our services. And everyone has been super successful.
So as you think about succeeding in these environments or attacking these environments and surviving the circumstances that we might be in, could you talk a little bit about having the right mindset and what type of mindset a CEO needs to have during these types of difficult, challenging times?
Well, I think I focus on year round, not just in a crisis. And so I'm staying the course on that. Is I'm value-centered leadership. Value-centered leadership, especially in a crisis, is even more important. You're going to have to make some, and I have made some critical decisions. Some were rapid pace at the very beginning. Some are a little more long-term about, how do these decisions affect our brand? How do these affect our community, those we serve, obviously our staff, our board? And so when you anchor yourself in the values of the Wooden Floor, it really helps you navigate those decisions, because when we ultimately have to act on those decisions, it creates buy-in from those, because they know that you're operating from your core values and your core principles. And so when we've had to make some decisions, we've gotten complete support from everyone, our supporters, our families, our staff, and our part-time staff that we have, because they know at the end of the day, we're looking out for them, because we lead with our values in all that we do. And I believe that is at the core, at least for us, and hopefully most leaders, around that mindset that they need. I think the other mindset kind of anchor is focus. That's been a hallmark of myself, but also the Wooden Floor, is that it really helps organizations not have mission drift. They can maximize and expand their missions, but at the end of the day, when the crisis is over, they're going to be returning back to their everyday. And if they're not focusing on make sure they're communicating that out to everyone that's in their community, that why they're making these changes right now, And if they are short term, making sure you're communicating that out. But maybe those changes will be long term eventually, because you find like your mission can expand to go into those new service deliveries. So I really believe it, for me, it's values and focus.
I think that's great. If you were to give just a word of wisdom, a piece of advice to a CEO who is undertaking challenging times such as these, what would be your right out of the gate advice to that person?
I think you know, in the crisis, I think you have to balance short term, long term, and it's very difficult. And so, what I'm really trying to do right now is we came out of the emergent phase of the crisis, I feel, in that first 30 days. And so, I'm really having the leadership team focus on the 60 to 120 days out from this point in May, making sure that we're looking at making sure that everything's really driving our programming. And I think if you're a CEO of any business, it's not a nonprofit, is that I think your leadership team can really help in this shorter term plan, also integrate them into long term planning, but with so many things going on in their individual departments, adding like where are we going to be in 18 to 24 months is probably very difficult. And so that's my role. I love to think that far ahead. So I'm actually, I brought in some thought partners. I have my strategic planning consultant working with me, who works with me year round, and one of my directors, who we're creating a framework for us to think through the big issues, bringing both external and internal data together, looking at research, and then taking that to the board of directors in August to really look at that of what are the longer term impacts. Because as you know, in higher education, they're talking today that maybe students want to take time off in this next year. Maybe they are, rethinking higher ed. And we believe higher ed is the gateway to break the cycle of poverty. At the end of the day, the Wooden Floor's goal and mission is to break the cycle of poverty through generational change. And most of our students are first generation to go to college. And you know that a college degree is really going to make the difference for our students. So we're really encouraging those students that need to take time off for any reason because of work or something else, that they need to really get back on that highway to make that happen.
Oh, that's great. I think we have time for maybe one or two questions from the audience. Rosie, do we have any questions from our live audience?
Yes, Jay. Our first question comes from Brandon in Irvine. He asks, what can leaders like you do to keep the momentum going with your employees during times of uncertainty?
Thank you, Brandon. One of the things that we've been doing is a lot of personal check-ins with our individual staff members, really making sure we actually meet weekly now. Before the crisis, we were meeting monthly as an all staff because we saw each other every day, So now we're meeting every Thursday. Our senior leadership team is meeting daily, and the departments are still keeping to their normal schedule as is. And we're actually creating through Zoom and other mediums. We use MS Teams also. We're integrating that. That was also something we had the ability to do. And then we actually just kind of backburnered it because we all see each other every day, right? But now in the new normal, when we do come back to our everyday work life, we may even be doing MS Teams inside of the building because we're going to have to create social distancing. But we want to have social connection, not social distancing. So we're also having virtual lunches and coming up with some fun activities of sharing like everyone. And also the other part is we're focusing on professional development. We think this is a great time to upscale your learning. And so we've created some free platforms for our employees to take advantage of professional development if they want to. But we're also being sensitive that not all employees have the same situation at home. We have some employees with children at home are still balancing coursework with their schools. And so we just want to be really have empathy for our staff and make sure that they feel taken care of.
That's great. I think we have time for maybe one more question. Rosie, do we have another question?
Yes. Our next question comes from Elodie from Seal Beach. She asks, how do we plan ahead when we don't know what the future holds in regards to this pandemic? How can we be prepared for multiple scenarios?
Well, that is the $1 million question. I think it's that when I kind of started out at the beginning, it's carving out the time. You just have to be intentional and about making sure that you create that time. Then you have to look at those multiple scenarios, and then we kind of look at a yes, no, maybe, and the way we process through a filter of decision making at the wooden floor, that we take it through the mission, financial implications, staff implications, timing implication of opportunities. And if it doesn't feel right through that, then we know it's a yes, no, or maybe. And so it gives us, at least we have that year round, not just during a crisis. And so we're really leaning on that right now to filter all of these ideas that we have. But at the end of the day, I believe wholeheartedly that you have to stay the course on what you're doing in a for-profit or nonprofit environment. You have those external factors that you can't control, but you can control your own ability to focus.
I want to thank you, Dawn, for answering those questions and also for being a guest on our show and coming on and sharing your wisdom around planning during these difficult times. It's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I think that's about all the time we have on today's show. Join us each episode of The Leadership Voice as we bring you current relevant topics that might be useful to you and your business. I'm Jay Barbuto, and on behalf of the Center for Leadership here at Cal State Fullerton, we'll see you next time right here on The Leadership Voice.